how's everyone doing? This is Nick from forexfornoobs.com with the daily analysis. Today is Wednesday, the 21st of October, 2020. Time is 10:01 here in the UK. You're looking at a EURJPY daily chart. In today's analysis, we're going to be looking for price action setups across all of these pairs listed here. We're going to be following up on the potentials I shared yesterday and some of last week's open trades, or the one open trade from last week that some of you are still in. And yeah, let's dive right in. Now, first things first, I'm just trying to think how I'm going to do this. So I talked about last week about changing up how webinars work and only doing one public webinar each week. Now, originally I was thinking Thursday, but I think I'll make today's webinar, this is just a spur of the moment thing. Today's webinar, the public webinar, then for members only, we'll do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. We'll try that out this week. So this is going to be a public webinar. Doesn't really make a difference to you guys who are here live. It's all the same thing to you, just saying. But for those of you who are not members of Forex Mastermind, we used to do 2 public webinars each week. From now on, it's 1. I just thought that would be fairer to Forex Mastermind members. So Wednesday's webinar is going to be public. So that means when it's shared to YouTube, the link is shared with everyone. And Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be private. So that means when I share the link, it's only going to be shared with members. That's how it works. Righto, let's dive into the actual analysis, guys. With all that boring stuff aside, but hey, it only took 3 minutes, so whatever. EURJPY. I know some of you are still in this trade. I know quite a few of you are still in this trade. The thing is, I've seen some discussion on the forum about moving stop loss to break even on this trade. And the argument was, from the people who did it, that they want to lock in profit. Now, when I saw that, I thought, I'm going to talk about this in today's webinar. There's nothing wrong with locking in some profit. But there is something wrong with it when it's done out of fear rather than when it's done out of or done because it's part of your trading plan. When it's part of your trading plan, that's all good. When it's done out of fear, that's not good. I'm not saying the people who were discussing on the forum necessarily did it out of fear. Maybe it's part of their trading plan. I'm not 100% sure. Some of the people who were discussing it are long-term members who've been around for a while, so it's probably part of their trading plan. But there was definitely some new members involved in the discussion. And I was going to respond, but then I thought I'll keep it for the webinar and then I'll respond later. So doing it because it's part of your trading plan, sure, fair enough. So maybe part of your trading plan is if a trade hits 1R, which this one did, it hit 1R yesterday, I'll move my stop loss to break even. I don't necessarily agree that that's a good way to trade. I think 1R is just not enough to move a stop loss to break even in a lot of circumstances. But hey, if it's part of your trading plan, if it works for you, awesome. If you're doing it because you've seen other people on the forum doing it, that's not how you trade. If it's not part of your trading plan to manage trades in this way, and it's not part of my trading plan, then I would not move my stop loss to break even yet. In my personal opinion, if you're doing that because someone else is doing it, or if you're doing it because it's you're doing it just because you want to for this trade, that's bad. That means you're trading out of fear. You're making a decision out of fear to tighten your stop loss early. But yeah, if it's part of your trading plan, then just whatever, go for it. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because it's kind of important. Personally, if I were still in this trade, now I got out of this trade at the end of last week because at the moment with the US election and everything heating up, I do not want to hold trades over the weekend. So that's the reason I got out. And I never got back in because I don't like getting back into trades and, whatever, that's not important. If I was still in, I would not move my stop loss to break even right now. I would wait to at least get to 1.5R before I tighten my stop loss. And even then, I'd probably tighten it to 0.5. So I would halve my stop loss instead of moving it to break even. In some conditions, I would move my stop loss to break even at 1.5, but never, well, I won't say never, but very rarely do I do so at 1R. Righto. On to the next. So just a summary. I will keep this trade open, guys. It looks like it's going well. Hopefully today it breaks yesterday's high. If it does, I could see it running up a bit further. Keep in mind that this is a problem area where it's at, where it pulled back from yesterday is a problem area. So be careful with that. AUD USD, damn it. Okay. I had, I think my charts got saved over. The problem with TradingView, it's one of the few complaints I have about this software, is if you have it open in two different tabs and you make changes on one tab, then you close that tab, it'll save over them with the old stuff that was in the previous tab. So I had a thing roughly like this. Let me put my exact numbers in for this trade because I'm in this trade. I just want to put my precise numbers in because they've been kind of written over. So entry, hit, target, hit, and copy and paste over the stop loss, hit. So that's my numbers for this trade. I entered this trade this morning. There's still time to enter if you want to enter. It's definitely not too late. It's pretty much sitting at my entry. This is just a long AUDUSD, pretty simple trade. Price has dropped back down to support. It bounced from support recently. It looks like a pretty solid area. So I'm anticipating that this is going to start to form a bit of a range. So I'm just trading long from the bottom of the range. Or, well, no, sorry, it's not a range yet. I'm trading long from the bottom here, from this support area. And if it becomes a range, then that'll be great because it'd be nice to trade short from the top again and then long from the bottom, blah, blah, blah. So you get it. AUDUSD, simple, straightforward. I'm long on this. Now, I know some of you are also long on AUDJPY. Sorry, not long yet, but planning on getting in long on AUDJPY. I'm just going to stick with AUDUSD. This is essentially the same trade. AUDUSD, AUDJPY, it's the same trade. I have some pretty strict rules right now in the lead up to the US election. Some very strict risk management rules because I don't want to be overexposed on the market if something crazy happens like, Trump, he probably still has COVID. So what if he faints in the middle of a speech or, whatever, anything can happen. I'm very cautious right now with the situation in the US. Therefore, I am being very careful with my trades. I don't want to be overexposed. What does that mean? I don't want to have 3, 4, 5% open risk on the market and then have something absolutely crazy happen and be slipped hundreds of pips, and then that 5% exposure I have right now turns into a 10% loss of my account. I don't want that to happen. It's not like it hasn't happened before, not to me, but it has happened, these kinds of situations, which is why I have very strict rules. So because of that, I am not opening AUDJPY. These are essentially the same trade, AUDUSD and AUDJPY. They're very similar trades. I'm going to save the risk I have left that I am able to trade with my new rules for, damn it, I was going to save it for EURJPY, but that's already moved. Moved a bit too early. This must have been in like the last hour. Yeah, boom. I was waiting for a short on the daily EURJPY, but it seems like it's starting to take off on like the 8-hour, 6-hour time frames. That's unfortunate. Regardless, I'm still gonna save that risk for other pairs like GBP AUD, Euro AUD. I don't want to take what is essentially the same trade on AUD USD and AUD JPY. I don't want to take what's essentially the same trade. I'd rather save the risk I have left to take on another pair, which was going to be EURJPY, but that's already started to drop. So I know some of you have got a pending order on AUDJPY. Something like this. It's not perfect, but something like this. I'm not saying that's a bad trade at all. It's a good setup. It's a good pending order. I would, if you want to trade it, then go for it. I'm just saying personally, I'm not doing it, but it's not because the trade isn't good. It's just because I have a choice between AUDUSD and AUDJPY. I prefer AUDUSD because it's a major currency pair and it's just a safer trade in my eyes. So yeah, potential there. EURJPY, unfortunate. This one started to move a bit faster than I wanted. Yeah, that's just... Is anyone in EURJPY short on perhaps a smaller time frame? All right, it doesn't look like anyone's in, so I don't know what to do with this one. I'll keep an eye on it, right? I'm going to keep an eye on it for a potential short trade because it's not like this cannot still develop into a short trade. Let's say it pulls back up from here. Like, just use your imagination, or let me draw it for you. That's better. Let's say this happens. By the end of the day, it looks like this. All right, so it pulls back up, closes here, leaves this big wick there. Now, that would leave us with a potential short trade. It would actually be very similar to this candle here. Not exactly the same, but very similar to this candle here. So it would leave us with a potential short trade. So there is still potential to get in short here if it pulls back up. But honestly, it's dropping so fast, I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going down. This might just be a case of a trade that's moved too fast and I've missed it. So let's just see how that plays out. GBP AUD, I'm still looking for a potential short here. I want to see price stall out on resistance. Yesterday, we got some pretty good signs of it stalling out. It broke up and pulled back. Today, it hasn't been able to make a new high. And it's quite clear that the bulls are struggling right now. So it's worth watching for a potential short. That would probably trigger tomorrow. Euro AUD. This one's also worth watching for potential short. It's clearly stalling out at resistance. So I'm watching this on the daily chart. This would probably trigger tomorrow. Let's look for some new potential setups. AUDCAD had quite a big drop yesterday. Now it's sitting on support. Again, this is a case where it doesn't look great right now for a setup, but by the end of the day, this candle could end up looking something like this. Let's give it a lower wick because it always looks a little bit better when it has a bit of a lower wick. Could end up looking like that easily. Just means it will pull back down, drop lower a bit, and then come back up, close like that. Totally possible. So there is potential for a long trade here. There is potential that it's going to stall out at support and that we can take a long at support. So I'm going to watch for that. I know when I've had complaints recently that I just flick through charts so fast. And people are like, how is this analysis? But literally, if I don't see anything on a pair, then there is no point for me to analyze that pair. I'm not seeing anything on EURCHF. I'm not seeing anything of value on EURGBP, nor Euro New Zealand. So I'm just flicking through these fast. It takes me about 3 seconds or even less to see if there's a viable setup on a chart. It might take you longer because you don't have as much experience, but it really doesn't take that long to get to a point where it just takes you a few seconds to glance at a chart and see if there's a potential setup there. It's not like a special amazing skill. It doesn't take long for you to develop that. Because essentially, if something has not got a strong move up to an area of support or resistance, I'm really not that interested in trading it. Where GBP CAD is sitting right now, where it's been in between two major support resistance areas for days and days and days, there's literally no reason for me to look at this for more than a few seconds because I don't see any potential setup there. So when I flick through trades, through pairs really fast, it's just because I'm not seeing anything there. So but here, I see something. This is what I mean. When I see a nice strong move into an area of support or resistance, immediately I start thinking, ooh, do we have a setup there? Now I'm going to move this area of support down a little bit. I don't know why it was that high up. I start thinking, ooh, do we have a setup here? And USDCHF is showing a potential setup, or one that could happen in the coming days. So price is dropping down to support. I'm going to look here for price to stall out on support for a potential long trade. Quite interested in this one actually. USDCHF has really struggled with this level, and it has held very well. It's had two significant bounces here, so I would not be surprised if it reverses from here. I'm going to keep a very close eye on this one. And I'm still waiting for USD CAD to drop down to support, but it's not that close to it, so let's just not put it on the list of potentials. And yeah, that is everything I have spotted for today. Fair enough, Marlon. That's unfortunate, but I mean, you could always watch the recording. All right, I know I have the summary screen up, but I have a question. So let me quickly go back. Instead of doing the summary right now, I'll quickly answer that question. It's a support based on very recent data. It's hard to get a good support area for AUDCAD because you have to go all the way back to May 2019. But in May 2019, it was down here. Now, recently, it just smashed straight through there as if it didn't exist. Then it came back down and it touched down here twice. So I moved it up to here, and I think that this is the new support area. Sometimes support resistance areas shift. I try to place them based on recent data. I know this one isn't that much to go on. It really isn't, but I've placed it there regardless. If you go down to a lower time frame, you'll get a feel for more what's happening here when it comes back down to here and drops down. But I totally understand this being you being unsure about this area. And what I usually say is when you're placing support resistance, the proof comes when price stalls there, right? So I placed it here because I felt that it had moved to here. You kept yours at where it was on May, June, July 2019. Fair enough. But the proof comes when price stalls there. So I moved mine, it's stalled there, very, very clearly stalled there after an extremely strong move down. So now I believe that that's been confirmed. If price were to cut straight through it, I might have moved it back down, but it hasn't, so I'm keeping it there. I see why you have resistance there, but honestly, it has not been very strong recently. I see it more as a minor level. I think this one is more like here, but no, I see what you mean. There is a little bit of resistance there. I'm going to place it as a minor level. It's definitely something I'm going to watch out for, but I don't see any major bounces from there recently. I see more price getting stuck on there, which is more what I would think is a choke point. But it is definitely an area to be concerned about if you're trading short on GBPAUD. Righto, time for the summary, guys. Let's talk about all the setups that are upcoming and the current open trades. So, EURJPY, if you're in this one, I recommend that you stay in. Personally, I wouldn't tighten my stop loss. I've gone into that in depth. No need to go over it again. I just recommend that you hold on to this trade. It's going well. Watch out for this area here where it turned around from yesterday. That's quite clearly a choke point. So just keep a close eye on that. It might stall out there. If it gets stuck there for too long, it might be a good idea to exit, but we'll talk about that further. I'm long on AUDUSD. Entered this morning, didn't enter too long ago, and there is still plenty of opportunity to enter. You'd be getting in a bit later than me, but there's still opportunity to enter. It shouldn't really affect things that much. It's only a few pips of difference. AUDJPY, there is a potential long setup here. The entry would be roughly 74.66. Stop loss, you would place it around about 73.94, and the target would just be 2 times the size of the stop loss. I know it's a bit more here, but the initial target would, as always, be roughly 1.5. And depending on how it reacts at 1.5, you could extend that to 2. That would be the ultimate target. That would be the preferable target. And depending how it reacts, you could extend it even further to like 2.5, which is the next resistance area. So looks like a pretty good setup. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this setup. The only reason I'm not trading it is because it's essentially the same as AUDUSD, and I want to trade another pair, and I'm only really doing 2 pairs at this time because of the craziness surrounding the election. EURJPY, looking for a potential short here. Unfortunately, it's already started to move down, but it could still pull back up and give us a nice little indecision candle on the daily. So I'm going to watch out for that. GBPAUD, price is showing signs of stalling out on resistance on the daily chart. So I'm going to look for a short here. Honestly, this one is the least likely of all the trades that I would get into, to be completely honest. It's a pretty strong trend, which is a bit off-putting. Not trend, sorry. It's not a trend. I really need to stop calling these things trends because it confuses people. Because then I'll say to you at the same time, hey, this you shouldn't trade continuations here because it's not trending. So I wouldn't call this a major trend. I would just call it a very minor trend. It's not enough to trade continuations from, but it's enough of a move where I would be a little bit cautious going short. Now, does that mean I will never go short in a situation like this? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means I'm a bit cautious going short. So that's one of the reasons, because it's a pretty strong bullish move. Countering it could be pretty risky. Reason number 2, as Mo pointed out, there is a choke point here. So that would get in the way of this trade. And reason number 3, the most important reason, there is just a crazy amount of stuff going on with Brexit right now. As we draw closer and closer to the end of the year, Brexit is going to become more and more of a hot topic. Our Prime Minister is just all over the place on Brexit. But I would say none of the news has been particularly good for the UK in terms of Brexit, which, you know, might support a short trade, but who knows? Who knows, really? Point is, I don't really want to trade GBP right now if I can avoid it. So this is not my preferable setup, but it is a potential setup, so there it is. Euro AUD, now this one looks a lot better. It's already showing strong signs of stalling at resistance, so there's potential for a short trade here. Feel a lot safer trading the euro than I do GBP right now, so definitely some potential here. AUDCAD, again, I'm probably not going to enter this one myself because it's very similar to the AUD setup, AUDUSD setup, but there is potential for a long trade here. Perhaps even on the 8 hour you could be in right now. You could have entered on the 8 hour. But yeah, potential there. And finally, USDCHF. I'm actually a bit excited for this one. Price stalling out on top of support already. It's a strong support area. Price has reacted from it several times. Definitely looking for a long trade here. And that wraps it up for the analysis today, guys. I don't think there's anything else left to discuss unless there's any questions. Keep in mind the US election is very, very, very close. And as we get closer, there's going to be a lot of craziness. I don't know when the next debate is. Was one cancelled because of Trump's COVID? Quickly Google it. Try not to look at political news too much because it just really annoys me. Oh, tomorrow. Wow, okay. The third and final debate of the 2020 election. Wait, did I miss a debate or did they just cancel one? But anyway, the next debate is tomorrow, so that is something that, you know, it has potential to affect the market. Yeah, just be careful, guys. As we get closer to this election, things are probably going to get crazy with the markets. Well, not probably, I shouldn't say that. They just have the potential to get crazy with the markets. The potential. So watch out. If you're long on EURJPY, Mo, do you have access to the full course or do you have access just to the price action strategy part of the course? What happened there? Right, so there is a thing that is discussed in the full course. I don't want to go into it in too much detail because this is, at the end of the day, a public webinar, but it is concerning correlations. Now, generally speaking, pairs are correlated until they're not correlated. So pairs are correlated until they're not. What the hell does that mean? It means that looking at correlations can be somewhat helpful, but it can also be extremely misleading and it can keep you out of trades that you should be in. The best way to deal with correlations is to ignore them and to just have a maximum open risk on one currency. I can't get into it here because not only because it's a public webinar and it's information that's in the course, but also just because it's extremely complicated and it's hard for me to explain. And also, I'm not an expert in it. I use it, but I'm not an expert in it. That's why I had Viet, who is an expert in risk management, do that part of the course because he's better at it than me. So my point is, overall, it doesn't really make a difference, and you shouldn't avoid the Euro AUD trade because you're long on EURJPY. Correlations don't always work out. You can see here there was a massive move up on EURJPY, whereas for the same period on Euro AUD, it was pretty much moving sideways. I guess there was a bit of a move up, but barely registered. Barely registered. So it's not as if correlations are a 100% thing. You can see here, this is just like an overlay chart. You can see here there was a massive drop on Euro AUD, and over the same period, EURJPY pretty much moved sideways, right? This was in a channel. EURJPY was in a channel while Euro AUD was dropping down, probably one of the biggest drops it's seen this year. So, yeah. It doesn't look like there's any other questions, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys very much for attending. I'll see you for tomorrow's analysis. If you're a member, if you're not a member, I'll see you for, well, I won't see you, but you'll see me for next Wednesday's analysis. So thank you very much and see you guys later.